Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Last night, August 10th, 2018, headlines emerged about a plane hijacking followed by a plane crash out of Sea-Tac Airport just south of Seattle. In case you're not from there, it's called Sea-Tac because it's directly between Seattle and Tacoma, the two major cities in the region. What I'm going to show you in this video is why this stunt carried out by your government and a major corporation such as Alaska Airlines was conducted on the date of August 10th. And further, I'm going to show you how it was coordinated with the story of D.B. Cooper, the only unsolved plane hijacking in the history of the world, which took place between Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington, and also what it has to do with the Barefoot Bandit, the 19-year-old plane hijacker who was prosecuted in Seattle, Washington 8 years ago. D.B. Cooper, 47 years ago, 1971. Barefoot Bandit, 8 years ago. We're going to talk about why those span of years matter, 47 and 8. All of this stuff interconnected. In case you're new here, I've been educating for 5 years about how all news propaganda is contrived by a numerical code, which is part of Kabbalah, which is known as Gematria. And this is practiced by Freemasons and Jewish Kabbalists, which are the two groups of people who control media and who have much influence over many things in this world, including banking, major corporations, the world of sports. You learn this code, you can learn to see through a lot of things. So, in case you're new here, Gematria, there's 4 base ciphers. They're as simple as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards, and also incorporating the rules of numerology. 4 simple ciphers to learn. You can pick up my book, Letters and Numbers, teach you the code, its relevance, how it works. Or you can watch more videos on this channel. Or you can do both, which I recommend. Anyhow, in Gematria, airplane hijacking, 311, Sea-Tac, the airport where this happened out of, 113. And numbers that are reflections of each other are essentially equivalents. The day this happened was August 10th, which is the 222nd day of the year, the day leaving 143 days remaining. And this number 113 is important to the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Scottish 113. It's also important to the Jewish Talmud, where Bava Kama 113a says it's okay for somebody who's Jewish to lie to somebody who is not. And this code 113 is used again and again in propaganda. Understand, the programming in the media is meant to steer the public for the course of agenda. And likely out of this story, we're going to hear about new laws, new regulations being introduced to airports, just like what was done after the contrived propaganda of September 11th. Obviously, this story isn't nearly as extreme, but we'll have to see what rolls out of it. So, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in the base ciphers also sums to 143, and this came on the day leaving 143 days left in the year. Also, with regards to August 10th being the 222nd day of the year, a Masonic motto is order out of chaos, 222. Create the problem, provide the solution. And I want you to notice that in Gematria, Seattle and chaos both sum to 19. 19-year-old hijacker, the Barefoot Bandit, that story was 8 years ago in Seattle. 19 is the 8th prime number. And understand, all of these stories are coordinated propaganda. Talk more about the Barefoot Bandit as we get towards the end of this. So with regards to Freemasonry, you've probably seen their logo before. If you live in Seattle, you probably see this somewhat often on license plates. There's actually a number of license plates in Seattle, a very Masonic city, that have this emblem right here, the capital G with the compass and the square, instruments of geometry around it. And Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, means geometry in language with the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z, the 26th letter is 26. Geometry sums to 108. When you flip the alphabetic order around and make Z 1 and count back to A as 26, geometry still sums to 108. There's not a lot of words that are the same forwards and backwards. So geometry has perfect symmetry in Gematria, where symmetry is an important concept of geometry. And there's a whole lot more to this 108 thing. Open up your science book. You can see where the relevance of this number comes from. The diameter of the sun is supposed to be the diameter of 108 Earths. And from the Earth to the sun is supposed to be the diameter of 108 suns. And from the Earth to the moon is the diameter of 108 moons. That's why the mathematics, the ratios, that's how we get the perfect eclipses with the sun and the moon. And further, if you think about 108, 1's a line, 0's a circle, 8 is 2 circles. Lines and circles, geometry. If you've taken geometry, I'm sure that connects. Further, this Masonic logo, the compass, the square, the instruments of geometry around the G. The compass is set at 47 degrees. It's a tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid about how to establish foundation. The word foundation in Gematria sums to 47. Think about this nation's birthday, the 4th day, the 7th month. By the way, in Gematria, holiday equals 74. So does Independence Day. So does Masonic. So does English. So does Gematria. Anyway, 47, 74, reflections of each other. We're focusing on 47. Seattle is on the 47th parallel. The D.B. Cooper plane hijacking story was in 71, 47 years ago. This hijacker, they said his name was Richard. I haven't seen any news source put out his first name, but they are saying his name was Richard, and he went by Rich. But Richard has the Gematria of 47. How perfect. Picking on the Seattle airport again. Seattle on the 47th parallel, airport in Gematria 47, just like Richard. Further, it was Horizon Air, which is owned by Alaska Airlines, that was supposedly the ownership of the plane that was taken. And using the base ciphers, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards, horizon and masonry, overlap in Gematria. That nickname Barefoot Bandit, the 19-year-old prosecuted in Seattle for hijacking planes, his nickname 84, special number. George Orwell didn't name his book 1984 arbitrarily. George Orwell very much aware of the code because he was a member of the Fabian Society, a Masonic order established in 1884. If you never read 1984, it's about a nation ruled over with propaganda, a nation always at war. The people know this, but they don't know exactly why. And they're ruled over by screens and lies and intimidation, and they're not allowed to know truth. Further, August 10th, 2018, the date this happened, date with 56 numerology and the base ciphers, Sea-Tac Airport 56, Seattle, WA, like how you'd write it on an envelope, 56, Horizon Air 56. They said the worker who hijacked the plane was a mechanic, 56. It ended with a plane crash, 56. The type of plane stolen was a Q400, which when written out as words, sums to 56. This is done every day in your news. Propaganda has contrived this perfectly. This code is very important to, again, Freemasonry, which is based in Kabbalah, and Jewish Kabbalists, who are responsible for this. These are who control your nation, your world, your media, your dollar bills, your markets, and they do everything this way. August 10th, 18, the date also had numerology of 36. You can just add it up that way, 8 plus 10 plus 18, 36. What's weird is if you write out Q400, it also sums to 151, which is the 36th prime, and that's also a number connected to geometry in the Gematria base ciphers. So there's a reason they use that plane. Come down here. We'll talk about the crash site. What's interesting about that? It was Keytron Island. That's where they say it crashed. Also on the 47th parallel. just south of Seattle and Tacoma. Notice Keytron Island in Gematria. In the 4 base ciphers, 142, 52, 74, look at the gematria of the word Gematria in the base ciphers. 74, 74, 142, 142, 52, 52. Gematria is the code that all propaganda is constructed by. Get Masonic with the alphabetic order 74, Jewish 74, occult 74, English 74, Gematria 74. That's just using the alphabetic order. Holiday 74. Independence Day 74 when you use the alphabetic order and the rules of numerology. Same cipher that Freemason sums to 42 in. And when you write out 42 as a word, it sums back to 74. See how this goes? Also, when you write out 42, it sums to 142. And this news story, I should mention, is getting its most attention today, August 11th, since it happened late August 10th. Today, August 11th, is the day leaving 142 days left in the year. So, the D.B. Cooper hijacking, 1971, 47 years ago, this year. Look at the name D.B. Cooper, 42. Washington. Washington State is the 42nd state, named after the Freemason George Washington. And again, Freemason 42. D.B. Cooper hijacks a plane in Portland destined for Seattle, Washington, parachutes out into the woods of Washington, and is never seen again. That's the story from your government, from your media, which was a completely contrived story by the numbers at the time. The hijacking was November 24th. That's the day leaving 37 days left in the year. The plane was out of Portland, 37. Your media has always been this way, for as long as the TV's been out, and well before that. News has always been to control the minds of the masses. Oregon used to be a massive state. Washington, other states in the area came out of Oregon territory. It was broken up into smaller states, but Oregon was established as the 33rd state. And it's a good state for a hijacking. The word hijack, Gematria of 33, Oregon, the 33rd state. This is the only unsolved hijacking in the history of hijackings. That's for the federal government. Federal 33, Order 33, Secrecy 33, Masonry 33, False Flag 33. Don't ever forget September 11th, which involved hijackings. In 1968, 33 years before 2001, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. By the way, that happened on the 47th day of 1968. February 16th was the day that 911 was made the national emergency dialing code in 68. Also in 68, World Trade Center construction began. George W. Bush, who was the president in 2001, graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones, a Masonic order. Bonesman equals 33. That's what the alumni of Skull and Bones are. Space Odyssey 2001 came out that year, and the New York Jets won their only Super Bowl. The world of sports and news all scripted together. Don't forget it was a New York Jet that sacked Drew Bledsoe, who actually went to college football at Washington State University. But a New York Jet sacked Drew Bledsoe, then Tom Brady, who's not even athletic, emerged as the greatest football quarterback ever. Guy that can't even run in a league that's all about speed. Playing for the Patriots after the Patriot Act. You know, that's why you really don't even need gematria. You just need a brain. Towers get perfectly demolished. Impossibly. A third building falls 8 hours later in the day for no reason. It's blamed on a man in a cave. And then, a crap football team, the New England Patriots, becomes the greatest football team in the history of the world after the Patriot Act because Bill Belichick wears a hoodie. Man. They treat us like we're such morons, and we fall for all of it. That's what's so pathetic about this nation. I knew something was wrong that day. National emergency, 911 plus everything else. That's how I ended up figuring out gematria. Knew there was something up with the numbers. So coming back to the Barefoot Bandit, Colton Harris Moore, look at his birthday, March 22nd, 22/3, pretty much the favorite number of Freemasonry, Masonic 223 in the Jewish cipher. He was 19 years old, the chaos number. Again, Seattle 19, chaos 19. This happened on the Order Out of Chaos Day, the 222nd day of the year. Notice how they get the July 4th in the story, 7/4, 4/7. And also, possibly coincidental, but the way that they sync up news with sports, the Mariners, they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're probably not going to make it. By the way, Mariner fans, if you're watching, I think next year the Mariners are going to do something big. Next year's their 43rd season. Mariners equals 43. Next year will be 2019, emphasis on 19. Seattle's 19. This year's the Mariners' 42nd season, right? And with regards to it being the 42nd season, the whole DB Cooper thing and Freemason rituals and all that, it is interesting to note that from the day of this hijacking to the start of the World Series is 74 days later. And again, this happened on August 10th, 10/8. Major League equals 108. A baseball has 108 double stitches. Remember the Cubs breaking the 108-year curse like I guaranteed they would in spring training, saying why they would win on November 2nd in the 112th World Series, where mathematics equals 112 and geometry equals 108, as they did. As I've called the World Series pretty much every year since I learned this study. But we'll have to see what else comes in the news between now and the World Series. Makes me think of how after 2001, the World Series was between New York and Arizona. Remember the hijackers trained in Arizona? New York and Arizona, the only two states that sum to 39, the big number in New York. But the World Series in September 11, 2001, those were big connected stories at the time. The World Series was delayed because of 9/11. The season got pushed back. The firm that built the World Trade Centers, Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, they're out of Seattle. So, I don't think this means the Mariners are going to get hot and sneak into the World Series this year, but I'm just wondering if somehow they're going to end up somehow intertwining. Maybe another hijacking happens, an actual city that is going to represent the World Series. But we'll just pay attention because it's just very interesting the way the numbers line up. The 74 days, this coming on the 10/8, like 108 day. It's also a span of 75 days, and World Series has the Gematria 75. So we'll see. That could be the coincidental part, but what's definitely not coincidence is the way they line this up with the Barefoot Bandit hoax and the DB Cooper hoax. And the fact that they did this on August 10th, their Order Out of Chaos Day. Create the problem, provide the solution. That's what it's always about. That's what 9/11 was all about. Scare you, make you think there's some boogeyman. Go start these needless wars so that we could claim these territories. And look at all the things that we're doing over there. It's been oil pipelines. It's been opium production. Making all this money off war. Meanwhile, here in the United States, what's it been about? Been about taking away our rights and liberties, moving more of our tax dollars from things that actually benefit us to military, police, surveillance. That's what 9/11 was really about. The enemy is within. That's why in the Constitution we're supposed to protect ourselves from foreign and domestic enemies. We forget about that domestic part, and we're ruled over by the domestic enemies. And this is just another little stunt along the way. And, it could also just be a reminder like, oh yeah, we need all that security at the airport. Crazy things happen there. Just a little reinforcer. I don't know how they could really have any more security at the airport than they already do, right? Making us take off our shoes, strip, go through the detectors that show our entire body. I mean, is there any more they could really do there? It's probably, at the end of the day, just another ritual by the numbers to remind us, again, we need the surveillance. We need the security. We need more tax dollars for all this. And every time you go to the airport, how many cops are parked there? Another interesting thing to do would be go back and measure how many days that supposed shooting was at the airport in Seattle. Here, let's just do it right now. If you didn't hear about this story, it was real minor, but if you're in the area that day, they had police officers running around with their assault rifles. It was another drill. Seattle Airport shooting. I think it was in June. Well, that's what's coming up right now. I knew it was a bullet. Okay, this has to be the story right here. I knew it was a bullet. 4 cars hit by gunfire. I'll tell you what, I was there that day, and all I saw were police officers running all over with their rifles. Didn't hear any gunshots or anything. No injuries reported. I think they blocked up. So it was June 13th. I just wanted to confirm the date here. Let's just see how many days from June 13th to August 10th it is. Because oftentimes these drills are all perfectly synced. 58 days. So 58 days, what's 58? Who have we been talking about this entire time? There's one network that's responsible for all of this. 58. No surprises here. Freemasonry, 58. Secret Society, 58. Big number with Freemasonry, 58. And, let's just see what they got emphasized too. I knew it was a bullet. I knew it was a bullet. The 108, huh? It's all mathematics. It's all geometry. So, anyway, we'll leave it there. This is how your nation is run, and this is what people need to know. Until next time.